Night adjacent to the square. They were also dispersed by police, pushed back into the city, who at the same time, upon hearing about this, thousands of people have marched onto Taksim from the Asian side of Istanbul, but they were stopped by police on the Bosphorus Bridge. Again, clashes erupted there, again tear gas and water cannons. The situation in Turkey remains quite tense at the moment because a lot of people are saying that there's an increasing chasm between the protesters and those people who support Prime Minister Erdogan. And a lot of people believe that he, as a matter of fact, is the one who is creating that chasm, as we show in our report. Clashes, turmoil, blood, smoke, and even death. This has been Turkey's reality for the past 2 weeks. As protests show no sign of subsiding, Prime Minister Erdogan shows clear indication he won't budge, neither on the prospects of Gezi Park demolition, nor on other requests coming from Taksim Square.
His actions made the tension between the two parties more serious than it was before. And he provoked his supporters, spreading some disinformation about people drinking in mosques or people attacking headscarf women and like the people who are killing policemen. And most of those informations were incorrect.
Looters, alcoholics, extremists, foreign agents, all bound to wreak havoc in Turkey. This is the reality of protests, according to Erdogan. And though some may believe him, others remain critical of the Prime Minister.
I'm against the protests, but I think that these protests come from foreign forces, from other countries which are not happy with the success and development of Turkey.
I'm really angry with the government. I think Erdogan acts like a dictator. He does whatever he wants. He doesn't care what other people think.
I'm against the protesters in Gezi Park because things are getting out of control. Also, the foreign press show it like a big event, and this makes the protest even bigger. But the government wants to make peace with people.
So far, however, these efforts appear to have resulted in yet more clashes in Istanbul and Ankara throughout the week. With numerous reports of police brutality, we spoke directly to officers to try to find out their side of the story.
From day one, we worked for 3 days without sleep or food. When in armour, you can't eat, and afterwards, all you can think about is sleeping. We slept on the pavement, on the grass, or on our shields, maximum 1 hour a day. I didn't get face-to-face with the protesters, but I had no access to any information. My phone battery died, so I had no idea why the protests got so big. The only things I heard were orders from our commanding officers.
The pressure on police has been so great that, according to their union, 6 officers have committed suicide, while nearly 1,000 resigned because of the protests. As the protests continue, with all participants of the conflict growing increasingly tired and desperate, and the government making no clear effort to ease the tensions, some begin to wonder where Prime Minister Erdogan, who prides himself on a building boom in Turkey, has actually destroyed the very bridges within society in the country. In Istanbul, Irina Galushko, RT.
For a second day in a row, Turkey's prime minister has gathered an army of supporters for a counter-rally, this being held in Istanbul, where overnight anti-government demonstrations were forcefully dispersed. Tayyip Erdogan again labeled protesters traitors and accused the foreign media of painting an inaccurate picture of what's going on in the country. World Affairs journalist Neil Clark thinks Prime Minister Erdogan's taken a combative stance against the protesters, feeling he'll get away with the crackdown thanks to strong Western support.
Erdogan feels emboldened, really, to act in a very harsh way against the protesters, and he's emboldened because he's a member of NATO and a US ally. And I think it's very interesting to see just how muted the criticism of Erdogan has been over the past week in the West. John Kerry made some mutterings about not using too much force, but William Hague, for example, has been silent. The French have been silent. And I think this emboldens Erdogan to clamp down harshly on protest, to put in the police, put in the water cannons, the plastic bullets, etc. I think Erdogan feels really that there's no real pressure on him to actually negotiate and to meet with the protesters. Why should he, he's thinking? Because he's got the backing of NATO and the US. The US will do everything to stop him from falling from power. The other thing is, of course, elections aren't due in Turkey for 2 more years. The opposition is divided, so he thinks he's in a very strong position.
Edward Snowden, the man who exposed the extent of the U.S. secret global surveillance program, remains at an unknown location in Hong Kong, awaiting Washington's next move against him. He willingly revealed his identity